Well, in the last session, we have discussed about two classes of Java.lang package. One is object class and other one is class. So those two we have completed. Once again, I just would like to give you a brief note about object class and class. Object class is having functions that are commonly required to all the Java classes, are all given in Java.lang.object class, like such as equals, hash code, toString. These three methods must be overridden in every class. Class which contains an encapsulated data, but not like the classes such as the DAO classes, business logic classes, factory classes, validator classes. Those classes don't require to override equals hash code and toString, especially beans or value objects, transfer objects, business objects, entity objects. Hmm? Pojo, you can call it as. Only in such and wherever the encapsulated data exists, there you need to write override equals to string and hash code methods. Clone method and finalize method we can implement as per our requirement. If you want to give a deep copy of your object or shallow copy of your object, based on that you can implement and give clone method. Finalize method you can treat like a destructor, so that as however you initialize your class instance variables in the constructor, you uninitialize all the variables in the finalize method. Garbage collector is going to call your finalize method on every object just before destroying the object, and it is a kind of life cycle function that JVM or garbage collector will inform to developer through a finalize method that I'm destroying your object. So whatever unnecessary, whatever unsaved data exists in your class, if you are really interested to save your data before destroying the object, that you can save them in finalize method, or you can initialize to some default values or null values. Wait, notify all methods are used on our object in thread synchronization. That's all. And coming to, and one more class is get class. So object dot get class function, if you call, you will get the class object is one. Class dot get name will return the name of the class. Okay, suppose if you dynamically get any object and want to know to which class that object belongs to, you can call object dot get class dot get name. You will get the class name. But more than that, the class is having so many number of functions. The functions related to retrieve information about any class loaded into the class object at runtime. That's through a class dot for name. If you pass any fully qualified class name as argument, you will get this class type of object. Through this class, you can get modifiers, the class modifiers. You can get the package name. You can get the constructors. You can get the fields. You can get the methods of the class. So from each of those objects, we can retrieve the fields data, constructor data, and methods data. Those field, constructor, and method classes exist in java.lang.reflect package. And such a type of retrieving information about the class, where through this class object is called as introspection. Introspection. So we finished that part yesterday. So now coming to the system class, and process and runtime together we'll discuss. Coming to the system class. Can you guess what system class will do? System class is a very frequently used class in the Java programming. If The most frequently used statement in Java is system.out.println in standalone programs. But in web application and other applications, we can use system.out.println, but the message is written through a system.out.println will go to server console on the web applications and other interoperable distributed applications. In standalone applications, you can use system.out.println, but in every application, the developer, even including in the web application also, developers will write system.out.println for debugging the program. Once it is executed successfully, then it will be deployed into production server that clients will use it. But still in the application development, the most frequently used statement to write the debug statements is system.out.println. Actually, system.out.println is not a recommended way to write the debug statements. There is one API exists in the Java called log4j or SL4j. These APIs are used to write various types of messages in the Java application. But we are not. You need that API knowledge to use this log4j and SL4j. But if at all, if you want to use system.out.println, what is the meaning of system.out.println? Actually, we cannot explain about system.out.println statement in the first program. That means in the hello program. Because by the time we don't know what is class, what is object, what is static method, what is non-static method, what is static variable, what is non-static variable. We don't know anything about the basic concept. So in the hello program, during hello program. So we cannot explain system.out.println. But now if you carefully observe the statement system.out.println. So how it is looking like system.out, you are calling with some class name dot variable name, isn't it? So what type of variables are called with class name dot variable name? Class name dot variable name can be called only on static variables, isn't it? Static variables. Only static variables can be called with the system.out.out. Yes, true. In system class, out is an one static variable. But it is not a variable, it is an object reference of. It is an object reference of print stream class. It is an object reference of print stream class. Print stream class object reference name is out. That because of it is a static variable or static object reference, we are calling it system.out. And in the print stream class, two methods are given, print and println. Each print and println method is overloaded for more than some 10 to 11 times. So print method and println method takes byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean, object, string. Yeah, more than 10 to 11 times. Print and println, these two methods are overloaded in print stream class for more than 10 to 11 times. So those methods will take any type of object as argument. So that is how we are calling in the system class. Out is a static object reference of print stream class. And in the print stream class, print and println two overloaded methods exist, so that we call the system.out.println. Similarly, to read the input from the standard input from the keyboard, we use system.in.read. In system class, in is an object reference of input stream class. In input stream class, read method is available to read the data from the standard input from the keyboard. Right. Right. And third one is system.err. So system.err is also a print stream. By default, system.out points to standard output monitor. System.err also by default points to standard error stream, that means monitor. System.in by default points to standard input, that means to the keyboard to read the data from. and out and errors will write the output on the console and on the monitor line. So that is about the three variables that I have discussed here. So public static input stream in, also called as standard input stream (STDIN). The stream is already open and ready to supply user input, and through a keyboard we can read. So the stream by default points to standard input keyboard. By default, system.in points to the keyboard. By default, system.out and system.err by default points to standard output, nothing but monitor. For example, if you want to read through a system.in.read, system.in. Suppose if you want to read through a system.in, if you want to read data from a file or from a socket instead of reading from the standard input keyboard. So what you can do is, in system class, three methods are given. See here, set in, set out, set err. In the set in function, what is the argument? Set in function takes input stream object as argument, and set out and set error takes output stream objects as argument. That means by using system.setIn function, if you points to any new file input stream or socket input stream or some other stream, so the system.in.read, instead of reading from the keyboard, it will try to read from the socket or from the file system. And if you just give any input stream object here, system.in will point to that. But by default, it will point to keyboard. That's why I said the stream is already open and ready to read the data, the input supplied by the user. Similarly, system.out also. In the system.out, you give new file output stream of some file name you give, and you keep writing system.out.println. The data will be written to file instead of going on to the monitor. So, like that, the default system.in and system.out, the default standard input and standard output, the keyboard and monitor in Java, can be replaced with some file or socket or any other input and output stream objects through as the setter method, set in and set out methods. That is about these static variables. And the next, coming to the array copy method, I don't know actually why this method is given in, actually this kind of methods are given in collection API. But this system class static method array copy method takes source array, source index, destination array, destination index and linked. You write one, you take one array object, any source array you take, any string array or char array or some int array you take, that you pass as argument over there. You can ask me, can I pass int as an object here? Yes. And int array as an object here? Yes. Int array is also a kind of, I believe, you can pass int array as an argument here in the first argument, I guess. The arrays and objects are treated as a secondary data type, but you try once, you try to pass int array as argument here, maybe it will be treated as integer array or something like that. And in that array, you give source index. And you give a destination array, in that also you give starting index. Destination index means in this second array, the starting index. This is the source array starting index. And then you give length. Automatically, the data will be copied from one array to another array. Instead of, we can manually write, hardly it's a matter of writing 4 to 5 lines to read data from one array and write it into another array. Just find out the length of the array, use for loop from 0 to iterate up to less than length, and from source array you retrieve each value from using index like integer I, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and move it on to the destination array from 0th index. The same thing can be done within 4 to 5 lines of code, but one predefine function is given. And that is about array copy. And the next, the system.currentTime millis. System.currentTime millis, this function is written in a long value. Even you write one small program, Java program, and write system.currentTime millis. This function will return the number of milliseconds of the time since January 1st, 1970. January 1st, 1970. From that date to till date, the number of milliseconds will be calculated and written by system.currentTimeRelease method. Okay, so if you want to find out the current system timestamp, we can use the system.currentTimeRelease. Okay, but long value will be returned, but long value if you pass this argument into date class constructor, then the date object will be constructed. If you print the date, month, year, hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds will come. Right. The next, there is one more method given called a system.exit. In the system.exit, if you give 0, it's a normal termination. If you give system.exit of -1, negative value indicates that you want to abnormally terminate your program. Suppose if you want to terminate your program abruptly, some not exception raised or some exception raised or some situation occurred in the Java program from which you cannot execute the program further, then how do you exit from the program? So to exit from the program, you have to write system.exit of 0 or -1 you give. Based on that means that 0 or -1, that indicates whether your program is normally terminating or abnormally terminating. That's it. And there is one more method given called a system.gc. See, look at all these system class methods are static methods. The system.gc method, it's a static method. System.gc means garbage collector. See, in Java, garbage collector will run in regular intervals by the JVM. JVM is having its own scheduler. Based on that scheduled time, the Java virtual machine will run the garbage collector. That garbage collects all the objects. One day, as I promised you, I'll take garbage collection topic also. In Java, garbage collector will be called by default. But if we want to explicitly call the garbage collector, you can call system.gc method. So garbage collector will be called whichever objects are marked to get swept. So those all objects will be garbage collected by this GC method. And system.getProperties, anyway, we'll see this example, get properties, so get property, get environmental. We'll see these examples right now. And the next, here is the example. So here, which package I'm importing here? Public class display system properties environment variables. Display system properties and environment variables. In this program, I imported one java.util and one java.io. Two packages I have imported. Why two packages? Because in the main method, we are writing system.getProperties method. We call it. System.getProperties method will return your complete operating system and JVM properties altogether, around some 40-50 properties, a very big stack of all the, and this is only half the screen of screenshot I took. More than this, and the double of this screen size is still left, but that I didn't copy it because of to show just how the system properties are displayed. I'm executing. I mean, I'm displaying this slide, but you'll get almost 2.5 pages of output if you print these properties. And your complete current operating system, your RAM, your virtual memory available, your heap memory available, the number of processors you are having, a lot of your processor manufacturer details, your operating system manufacturer details, your JDK manufacturer details, the manufacturer year, the version of the operating system, the version of the JDK, which bytecode of the lower version of the bytecode and minor version of the bytecode and major version of your JVM bytecode. Those all details will be displayed here. Your system environment variables path, class path, lot of data will be displayed. Right. System.getProperties method, if you call, you will get a properties class object. Actually, properties class will discuss in java.util package. I'll tell you in brief what properties class is. Properties class is nothing but a class which is capable of reading property name and value from a properties file. From property file is nothing but a file which contains a key is equal to value, or property name is equal to value. Wherever you write property name is equal to value, with equal separator, if you write property name and value, such a file is called as properties file. So system.getProperties method will return a properties class object. The properties class contains property name and value separated by equal to symbol. Once after getting the properties class object, you call property object dot properties class object dot property names. This property names function will return an enumeration of strings. That is why what we are doing here, while enumeration dot has more elements, enumeration interface is having two methods, has more elements and next element. So has more elements method we called on enumeration object in while loop. Enumeration dot next element will return each and every element, and the element is nothing but in this key, this left hand side, all the keys are the properties. So enumeration dot next element method returns object that we are converting using toString method. You got the property name. Properties class object dot get property of, if you pass it name, you will get the value. Both we are printing here. The next, the same example we can run using system.env also, get env. Get env, the same thing it will return, but this method is complemented to the old Java API, legacy API, because it is returning properties class object. In the collection API, map named one interface and some 4 to 5 subclasses are given. Hash map, linked hash map, tree map, mainly. Some weak hash map, something like that. So one interface, map interface, and 4 or 5 concrete subclasses are given in the collection API on map. So system.getEnv function will return a map object that returns a map object of both containing string and string as a key and value pairs. So we'll get a map object in the map interface. In the map class or interface you can call, but map is an interface. In the map interface, key set method is given so that all the keys will be written as a set object. Set is also one of the interface in collection API. Set, list, map are all part of collection API. So using enhanced for loop from set, we are retrieving each key into key object, string key. So using map.get, because map returns both key and value pairs, map.get of each key, if you pass, you will get the value that we are printing here. Current time list will print the current system time, date and time. This will show us the long value. This will show us the date and time. Date and time. And next, what by default system.out.println will do? Whatever you pass onto system.out.println will be written onto the monitor, right? Instead of writing onto the monitor, if you want to write it into a file, so what you need to do is you create one print stream class object. Print stream class PS is equal to new print stream of new file output stream of standard output. Standard output. So now the system.out points to the print stream and file output stream. System.set out of PS. So system class now points to print stream points to file output stream. Now through a system.out.println, if you write anything, that output, instead of going onto a monitor, the output goes to a file. The file named standardout.txt. You can run this program as this, but don't get surprised because this program doesn't show you the output on the console, on the monitor. The data will be written to a file. So soon after execution of this program, you need to open standardoutput.txt file and see this hello, hi and bye messages. Don't get surprised that we are not getting output on the standard output because we changed the standard output device. Then the next coming class is process and runtime. Process and runtime. See, process is an abstract class which cannot be directly instantiated. Of course, abstract class, if class itself is abstract, class cannot be instantiated. One more type of class we cannot instantiate. That is a class which contains a private constructor. Such classes also cannot be instantiated. Class contains a private constructor so that the class cannot be instantiated. Such classes will provide one static method in the same class. If you call that like runtime dot get runtime like that. So if you call the class name dot one static method exists in that same class, that will return the same class object. The singleton classes are implemented like that. But here process class is an abstract class itself, so that you cannot instantiate it. Instead, this class object is returned to runtime dot and runtime class is having one method called exec. If you call this method, a process object will be returned, that we'll see in the further example. So process class is an abstract class, you cannot directly instantiate. Runtime class is having one exec method that will return process class object. So that we'll see at the end of the program. And runtime named another class is given. Runtime class also cannot be directly instantiated because there is no public constructor exists in the class. The constructors made us private. Then how runtime class can be instantiated? And why is its constructors made us private? The actual purpose of runtime class is to access your current JVM. So if you directly write runtime r or some rt is equal to new runtime, a new runtime object will be created. But the purpose of the runtime class is to access our current JVM, but not to create a new runtime class object. So then how to create runtime class object? Runtime class is not abstract, but its constructor is private. The actual purpose of runtime class is to access the current JVM runtime environment. The current JVM environment is nothing but from the command prompt will start Java with some class name. JVM immediately starts, and the class name will be loaded into the JVM. In whichever JVM our class is loaded and running, in that class, if you call runtime.getRun, anyway, you write this runtime, and through any method through any program, if you run this statement, so in whichever JVM your current class is running, that current JVM environment, runtime environment, you will get through this runtime class object. That corresponds to JVM reference. So how to access that runtime.getRuntime method? If you call, you will get a runtime class object. Runtime dot, you can call some methods that we'll see next. Because we do not want a new JVM, instead in whichever JVM our Java program is running, if that JVM want to be fetched, instead of creating a new runtime class object, a runtime dot, its static method, get runtime method must be used. So this will return the current system JVM environment instead of creating a new runtime environment object. Our current runtime environment we want fetch. We don't want to create a new runtime environment, isn't it? So the purpose of getting current JVM reference is to invoke the native components on the current operating system from Java program. Native components means like any components which comes through your operating system, like MS Paint, Notepad, calculator, or our Java compiler itself, Java interpreter itself. Any command, if you want to access through any network commands, any operating system commands, any file and directory commands on the operating system, if you want to run from the Java program. So how do you do it? See, in core Java, at the end of the core Java, I used to teach Java user interface programming using AWT and JFCN swings. This is the last topic. AWT and JSON swings is the last topic. In the topic, I used to always teach one example. The example is on like a notepad or edit pad. I used to create one example called ActivePad. ActivePad is nothing but one kind of editor. It is not an IDE, it's just simply an editor on which you can write a Java program. Through file menu, you can save the program. And here, one tools menu I used to add. In the tools menu, one compile and one run. And whichever program you currently opened on the active pad, if you click on compile button, automatically this program will be compiled. If you call run, the program will execute. But before compile and run, you must save this file in the hard disk. Then you can compile and run the program. So from the graphical user interface, when you click on the compile or run, that menu item, these are called as menu items. This is called as a menu. the tools, file, these are called as menu. This entire bar is called as menu bar. Menu bar contains menus, menus contains menu items. When user clicks on compile or run button, how this current program will execute? So that is why in the runtime class, okay, in that notepad application or activepad application, I used to teach runtime dot get runtime will return current runtime object dot exec of. In this exec, if you give any executable file that your operating system recognizes, it may be any operating system command or a file system command or a network command or Java commands like Java C, Java, Java P, JDB, Java debugger, and so on. So many number of tools are available. So if you want to invoke them, you can call runtime.getRuntime. Runtime class is having a static method called getRuntime. Current JVM reference will be written. .exe function will take any executable file as argument. That given executable file will be executed. Same expressions. Exit is already completed. Exe is just now we have taken. So, and one more thing. If you call runtime.exe function and if you give any executable file here as an argument, remember the executable file containing directory must be already included in your system environment variable path. So the directories which contains executable file, such directories are not if included in the system environment variable path, the requested exe file may not be executed. You get some whatever operating system gives. Suppose if your given command is not, if your given command cannot be executed by operating system, what is that? Not a internal or external command. The requested command is not found as an internal or external command. It says if you request for something which an operating system cannot recognize, what error the operating system gives is some ABC. ABC is not recognized as an internal or external command. Operable program or batchware. This is what. So make sure whichever exe file you are giving as argument into exe function, that directory, that is that exe file containing directory must be included in your system environment variable path. Exe function is complete. And some more other methods exist. The name called runtime class, because runtime class access your current system JVM. So available processors, the number of processors available, free memory, max memory, total memory. And this class mainly, system class will access your system environment variables. Runtime class will access your current JVM. And on JVM, whatever we want to execute, that you can execute through a program. So in the runtime class, get available processor, free memory, max memory, total memory, these methods are given. Using these methods, you can access how much RAM is available, how much RAM is available in your system, how much RAM is consumed, how much is available. So you can get all those details from here. And system.getGC, not getGC, system.gc method, we call the garbage collector explicitly. And trace instructions and trace method calls, you make it to true, the false. Here is the example. On runtime.getRuntime, a static method we are calling, runtime.trace instructions true, trace method calls true, available processor, free memory, max memory, total memory. Runtime.exec of into this program, you pass any program as argument, Java or runtime demo, you give notepad. Similarly, MS Paint, notepad, MS Paint, calculator, Java C, any file name Java. But if you give this command, please make sure that you pass this command through a double quotation. So whatever you enclose in the double quotation, that will be treated as a single string. This string will come to runtime.exe method. And then from a Java program, we can compile and run other Java programs. That is what we want to do, whenever we implement an editor like ActivePad. We write program on the ActivePad. We save from there into local hard disk. And from the ActivePad itself, we want to compile and run the programs. As however Edit Plus and other tools are running, that's how if you want to run. If you want to compile or run any Java program from another Java program, you please use this. So for that, what you have to do? Runtime.getRuntime method, if you call, you will get runtime object, runtime.exec. You pass any executable file as argument here, the file will be executed. Remember, here runtime class dot exec function call after that call, the process object will be written. Since from the beginning I'm having a doubt, why process class is abstract? Why it cannot be instantiated? Why that process class object, how that process class object can be written through a runtime? That was a big surprising thing. But if you observe this statement, that doubt will be clarified. Runtime class points to your current JVM. This .exe of any executable file if you give us argument. Like for example, while running the program Java runtime demo, and any Java program if you want to compile Java C, some file name .java, some Java C space some file name Java runtime demo, this class name. To that we are passing input for command line argument Java C, some file name .java. The given Java program will be compiled. Similarly, you can run also Java rd double quotation Java sum. I'm sorry, it's another statement. Comment. The given Java program will be compiled. The given Java command will execute. But if these commands are executed on your command prompt directly, if any compilation errors comes, they'll be displayed out there. If there are no compilation errors, program, if you execute, program successfully executes. If program execution fails due to any reason of, if any abnormal condition arises and if any exception is thrown into your program will abnormally terminate. So then how do you capture what is the output of Java compiler? How do you capture the output of the Java interpreter? Whether it may be a successful output or it may be an error output. But how do you retry? That is the point. How do you retry? So that runtime.exe is a function. If you pass any Java C, some file name .java, if you give, so the Java command will execute Java C. Once after completion of this command execution, whatever output comes from this command, okay, that output will come to process object. We'll see how to use process object next one. Runtime.exit of 0 will shut down the program abnormally, normally. So here the explanation is given on process runtime class is sufficient. Here, once after getting the process class object, where it is? Yeah, here it is. Once after getting the process class object, process class is having three methods called get input stream, get output stream, get error stream. So what get input stream will do? This get input stream method, and you call runtime.getRuntime, you'll get runtime object. Runtime dot you call get exec method, you pass some executable file as argument here. The file executed output. For example, in the previous few slides back, I opened command prompt and typed a command called ABCD, which is not an operating system recognized command. What immediately the DOS said, the command cannot be recognized as an internal or external command. So you have executed an operating system through this program, but you mistakenly typed something wrong in the command. But if your command is wrong, because you are executing the command through a runtime.exec function, the output may probably be raised in the runtime, and that output may come into the process object, but that cannot be shown on the screen because you are not directly executing the command on the command prompt. You are executing the command through a runtime.exec. So how do you capture the exe file running by the runtime.exec? How do you pass input into it, and how do you retrieve its output? And that command output, I'm not talking about program output, the command output, whether it is successfully compiled or not, or with errors if the program is compiled or not, that I don't know. I want to get the output generated by the exe file. So how do you get? So runtime.exec function will return a process class object. Process class is having three methods called get input sim and get output sim and get error sim. So if you write this object is used to get the output generated by the notepad process. This object is having read method. So you can write like this: process object dot get input sim object will be written from the input sim. Input sim is having one limitation. With the input sim, you can read byte by byte. The one character you can read. If you want to read a whole line, because once the program compilation fails due to some reason, some 10-15 statements are generated. The reason behind of getting the compilation error. Or if program is executed, depends on the number of system.out statements you wrote. Those many statements are printed. But you are executing through a runtime.exe command. So whatever output comes from your program or from the command, that data will come into input sim object. That input sim we are passing into data input sim class constructor, because data input sim class is one of the class in java.io package is having one convenient method called readline. Using readline, you can read line by line. So you pass that input sim object as argument into data input sim class constructor, and on the data input sim class you call readline. You get the line, but this will read only one line. But during compilation and execution, the command may be executed with more than one line, 10, 15, 20 lines sometimes. So how do you retrieve all of them? Do one thing. First of all, you create data input sim class object. Data input sim ds is equal to new data input sim of input sim. Don't write readline here. Here you write, and string line is equal to data input sim dot readline. While loop you would write str is equal to null. As long as string is not null, you keep on read the output coming from the program, and you can print it on the standard output. Similarly, this get output stream and get error stream, these two object, OS object is used and the output stream object is used to write some input into the processor. See, to us through a processor, the out is nothing but writing output, writing, and for our program it is output. To the executing program, whatever we are writing here, that is input to the program. So the OS object is used to write some input to the processor. Output sim class is having a write method. So you give output sim object to do data output sim class. Through data output sim class, data output sim class is having one method called get bytes. Get bytes, write bytes, write chars. Data input stream, the original name is data type input stream. And why it is named as data input stream and data output stream? Because this data input stream and data output stream classes are having one read and one write method that takes different data types as arguments. The data input stream is nothing but an input stream class which can read different types of data of different data types. But most frequently used method and world popular method of data input stream class is readline method, to read line by line. But other methods are also there. Similarly, data output stream class is having one method called write bytes. You can pass string. So write bytes is one method, write chars is one method. So and probably write bytes writes one byte, and only one byte data it will write. Write chars writes for every character it will write 2 bytes. One is your character, most significant bit will be left. So and dot write bytes off. You can give some file name, and into the running program this output sim data will be written. Similarly, p1.getData stream, you will get input sim object that you pass into data input sim and call readline method. whatever error your program generates during Java program execution, that output you can read through this p1 dot process dot get error stream. You will get input stream object. That input stream object, if it passes argument into data input stream class constructor and call read line method, you will get the, and this error stream will be written only if your command execution fails to run. This get input stream is used to get the output executed by your program. And into your program, if you want to write anything, you need to call process that get output stream. For our program, output stream means to the running program, it is an input stream. The program's output is nothing but our input. So this is how, and we should keep the program in mind. To the program, we are the clients. Write means writing input into the program. Read means reading output of the program. Okay. So that is all about the process class and runtime class. Couple of examples are given here. How to call calculator, MS Paint, and Notepad. Actually, I should have bring one ActivePad kind of example. I'm having it, but I can better teach that example after completion of JFC and Swings or AWT. At least one graphical user interface programming. That's all about this java.lang.package classes. System classes covered, process classes covered, runtime class covered. In the last session, object classes are covered. And apart from the wrapper classes, string buffer, string builder, exception subclasses, thread subclasses. Apart from these classes, object class, system, process, runtime, or the other miscellaneous classes exist in java.lang package. With this, I'm ending up our current session. In the next session, we'll meet with exceptions are completed, threads are completed, IO streams. So in the next session, we'll meet in a input output stream stop. Until then, thank you. Goodbye.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.